Can you describe how Bowman and Deal's four frames have guided or influenced your ability to navigate your organization?
So I can say that probably a week has not gone by in my career where I did not think about one or all of the four frames. I use the frames, sort of employ the frames all the time in my work when I'm thinking about a situation, a challenge, a problem. How do I want to approach something? When I'm trying to understand somebody's response back to me, um, and their actions and behavior in certain situations, right? I apply it all the time. So it's like invaluable to me. I'm a total Bowman and Deal geek.
What's your advice on how to apply the frames?
Helpful for both in planning for programming, like planning for a new program or a new innovation or something new that you want to try and do. But they're also good in an assessment and evaluation of a situation or a challenge that you're faced with. So let's take, for example, you want to create in Missouri Valley a new event. Think about what are the political issues. You could think about the human resource issues in terms of, okay, so who's going to staff this event and who's going to plan it, and is it beyond the capacity of the regional board to plan it, or beyond the capacities of individual congregational youth groups to plan it, right? So there's ways to sort of assess and plan. I should say there's ways to plan a program that isn't working well, an event that isn't working well. You could use it as a way to assess whether that program, why that program might not be working well, right?
So can you tell me a little bit more about your thoughts on the political frame and how it supports you or impedes you and how you navigate through that to get what you need to get done?
Oh, the political frame, as Bowman and Deal say, is often like the scariest, right? Because it's about politics, right? And we often don't know what that's about. But I like to think about the political frame being about sort of the resources that people have available. Not necessarily the human resource issue, but it is part of it. But the other sorts of resources that we have available, and that it's about people's needs, and them trying to what's the word I want? To advocate. That was the word. To advocate for their own needs, right, in making something happen, whether it's their institutional needs or their departmental needs. So I find that it's often really helpful to think about what are those competing resources or needs that are at play in a situation.
So you said that you tend to work in the structural frame. So how do you use that to support your work?
So when I am planning, I plan a lot of programs and meetings, task forces and things like that. And I think a lot about sort of what is the process by which we need to go about having whatever conversation we're going to have. So I think first about what are the goals of this conversation, or who's the audience that's going to be there, or what are the desired outcomes, and how do I get from A to B, or A to Z. And to me, that's a very structural way of thinking that I often will just sort of map out for myself what are the steps of a conversation that needs to be had, with a task force, right? So exactly.
So with that said, when you see that an organization is really viewing or a person is really viewing it from a specific frame, even if they don't know it, how do you help them and teach them to maybe view it from a different frame or a combination of frames?
So with this particular, like, let's take this one congregation as an example. With them, I've been really careful about the language that I use.
Hmm.
So I'm not sure if this will answer the question, but so when I talk with them about um, instead of talking about vision with them, I don't use that word vision because to them that feels too processy. Instead, I say, is this going to get you where you want to go? Right? Which is sort of a colloquial way of saying, does this meet your vision?
Totally.
But, right? But they're very concrete. So I think about the language that I use, and I try to ask questions or frame conversations in language that they're going to hear in the way that they're capable of hearing it.
So it's just as much about knowing or being able to kind of figure out what frame they're coming from in order to guide them in a different direction to get there.
Absolutely.
Okay. Cool. Well, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate your time.
It's my pleasure.
And